no way that you could have been born into this society.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? Are all white people racist? So here is a debate if all white people are racist or not. But let's dive into it together.
Are all white people racist?
100%. How can you be a white South African and not be racist? And I don't mean that in the way of you necessarily consciously think that black people are inferior. I mean that there is just no way that you could have been born into this society without internalizing racist assumptions. But let's not make that the end of the conversation. It's not racist, it's just a fact. Let's not make that the end of the conversation. Let's say, yes, sure, we are all racist, and what are we going to do about it? Let's move on. Let's not make that the final insult.
Monique, do you agree with Rebecca saying 100%?
No,
All
I
white people are
totally
racist.
disagree with what she's saying. I think that whiteness and white privilege has become this buzzword that you hear all the time. But actually, it's a way to silence anyone that is not of color. What she was basically saying is, if you are a white person, you are racist just because you are white, without any evidence. I am not a racist person. I respect all people. I respect black people, white people, colored people. So I feel it's very offensive to say that all white people are racist. It's just not true. And I think that to make whiteness the enemy is easier to fight than to fight the crippling corruption, to fight unemployment, to fight, to fight the wealth gap, because the political leaders that we have cannot fight that stuff. They don't have the skills to fight that, and then they make race the problem.
Ooh, Sarah.
Sorry.
You look like you totally disagree here.
I do totally disagree. I think that I'm a little bit torn because I really want to reply to a bit of what Monique has said, but I also really don't want this conversation where we have a potential to disrupt whiteness to be centered around the type of whiteness that is displaying the racism that you say that you aren't. I mean, the comment about people not having skills is inherently racist.
Yes.
Just to point out one thing. I think we should have the conversation about how to give back the land. I think that's what we should do.
Do you agree with Monique?
Well, I think that what we need to look at is an element of complicity, Mr. Chaba. And I think that fundamentally what we haven't unpacked, we've gone through the TRC process, and what we haven't understood is how white people have benefited firstly from apartheid, and secondly how a particular group of white people in this country have become fabulously rich off the back of apartheid. Now, I think that white complicity overall we can look at, and the responsibility to promote social justice in our country firstly. But when we have two families, there are two families in this country, the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts, names we don't necessarily all know, who have as much wealth as 50% of our people. Sure. It's an extraordinary crime. We should call it nothing else. That must be challenged. It's a crime against our humanity, and it's the humanity of 50 million people in this country. That's precisely where we need to focus at and say, how did you make your money during apartheid? How did you build those networks? And how do you retain and entrench your power in the last 20 years? And quite clearly, no one is disrupting that power fundamentally.
All right, Lovelyn.
I think what Elisa was trying to raise earlier about, PJ's song, yes, struggle hero, or you fought and whatever. I think the problem is that we forget that white people today have the option of tapping out, right? So you can sing Jabulani and you can dance, but then you can also remove yourself from the lived experiences of the culture that you're trying. I'm sorry, I'm speaking. From the culture that you're trying to represent. That doesn't make you a bad person. It's just the truth of the situation. And I think in South Africa, this is really what the conversation needs to be about. We need to talk about, why did apartheid end? Why did colonialism end? It didn't end because people's perspectives and behavior changed. It ended because it was expensive. It ended because white people couldn't travel anymore. It ended because they couldn't go and play sport, because entertainment for white people was over. Therefore, they needed to bring equality. That's not, we need to be honest. We must be honest about this. So for me, when we want to have this conversation, it's easy to say, let's talk about the Rainbow Nation. Of course, you can look forward if your life was never tainted by the experience of apartheid. Of course, you can look forward. It's not the same.
Looks racist, right? But it's not. The issue that many white people have when it comes to the term racist is that they define it as affiliating traits to a race. But that's not what racism is. Racism is assuming inherent qualities or tendencies based on somebody's race, and typically speaking or acting based on those assumptions or beliefs. To say all white people are racist doesn't suggest that all white people are born holding racist beliefs. In fact, usually an educated person saying this knows that nobody is born with racist beliefs. But a person saying that all white people are racist is recognizing that people's thoughts and beliefs are in large part constructed by society, and that a white person, against their will and consciousness, is bound to be influenced to society, which we recognize as racist, and so that will in turn develop racist thoughts and beliefs and tendencies, more so implicit than conscious in white people. The reason this is even harder for white people to grasp is because of the amount of burden it puts on them. It requires them to put in an effort to recognize what they don't consciously think about, but think about unconsciously. And naturally, they give pushback to ideas like this because who wants to feel like they're influenced by things?
Okay, sure. We'll start off this way. I don't go around saying that all white people are racist. Not because it's not true, but because I understand that if I go around with that statement, nobody cares to listen to everything else I have to say, because it's a triggering statement for white people. And I think part of solving the issue that is racism and systematic racism is having people listen to us. But that being said, she's not wrong. However, instead I'd like to phrase it like white people are born into a system that consistently supports white supremacy and racism towards people of color and black people. And yes, that involves all white people, whether you want to talk about South Americans, white Africans, whoever you're naming. White people can be the minority in a black-held country and still uphold white supremacy and racism mindset. Because white people have managed to convince the entire world that they're better at everything. And so they have people of color and black people like me convincing ourselves to be more like them. So then we get stuff like colorism. Where do you think it stems from? And sure, I suppose it is mean to call somebody a racist, but you know what's mean? Sundown towns that are still existing in America. Lynching that still exists in America. Exploitation of people of color and black people that happens all over. So all that kumbaya stuff you want to say when it comes to fighting racism, it's not going to work. Because you'll need to explain to me, how can I be kumbaya with a KKK member or a neo-Nazi? Matter of fact, with these curls on your head, how can you kumbaya with them? Because they'll take you down right after they take me. My thing is, when people like you come on the platform and tell people like me how to navigate how they feel about their oppression, it never works out. Because unfortunately, you'll always come from a place that's so vastly distant to where we are, you will never see it eye to eye the way we do. Not only that, you will unintentionally dismiss a lot of things that are going on. Like your video wasn't mean. Obviously, you're like, oh my goodness, woe to the white people. Stop calling white people racist. And guess who showed up in your comments? That's right, racist. The minute that you give these people the room to be racist, they're going to be racist. The one thing for sure, I don't know your ethnicity. I don't know what it is. You look white, so I'm going to address you as white. You're Brazilian, so I'm addressing you as a white Brazilian. This is not your battle to fight. This is my battle that I fight every single day. When I come up on live and I'm talking my ish, people come out and call me the N-word. When I speak with the slightest amount of AAVE, people call me uneducated. When I come on the live and I'm passionate about what I'm speaking about, people call me loud and black and ratchet. And these things are mean. Yeah, they're hurtful to me. I know you got a lot of likes in your video, 700,000 around there. But don't let that make you think that you're correct. Your stance is really wrong, especially because you do not get to dictate how people who are oppressed navigate their oppression, regardless if she's mixed, regardless if she's half white, half black. Now, I'll admit, I don't really care for her video because I don't necessarily agree with the whole thing, but also her second video when she says that, oh, well, I'm a teenager, adults should not be coming for me. I hate when teens pull that crap on the app. But what I'm gonna tell you is that your video did much more harm than it could do good. Read your comments. Look through your comments. Look what people are writing about my people. That's the space that you've created because you wanted to go on the kumbaya, woe is me, let's all make peace together. The minute that you can make peace with—
Assume that because we're white, we don't experience racism. And coming from a white woman, I'm only talking about my own perspective. I can't speak for black people. I can't speak for any other race except my—
You know, about 10 years ago, my best friend, who was white, called me up. He said he had just got an account with this bank and they immediately gave him a loan. He called me because he knew that I had a better paying job and I had better credit than him. So I said, yeah, I am looking for a new car. I think I'll go check it out. I went there, I got an account, and then I inquired about a loan. Now I'm working with this older white woman, and she immediately tells me that I'm not qualified for anything. So I leave. I come back about a year later with 2 jobs this time. And I'm greeted by another older white lady. She tells me that I'm still not qualified, that she needs to see more from me. So I leave. I come back a year later, this time with the best job that I've ever had, that paid more than I had ever been paid before. Also at this time, my friend is getting his second loan on a car. She looks at everything and says that she needs to still see more. So I said, you know what, forget this. I'm going to do it on my own. So I go out and I buy my first brand new car. High interest and all. A year later, I come back to get it refinanced, and I'm greeted by a younger white woman. She takes a look and she sees everything that I've done and tells me that she just needs to see more. So I leave. About 6 months later, I decide to try one more time to get that car refinanced. This time I'm helped by a younger black gentleman. He takes a few seconds to look at everything and immediately approves me for that loan. I wonder why. Tell me as a white person when you've had any experience like that.
You said all white people are racist. Just to show America you're not biased, could you make a sweeping generalization about black people?
All black people in America have probably been at the receiving end of some form of white supremacy ideology.
Okay, we get it. You hate white people. Relax.
White people also experience racism.
I think racism is definitely not a one race against the other. It goes all ways. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're Asian, it doesn't matter. You could experience racism no matter what color your skin is.
I think that people have a propensity to kind of have an aversion towards what's different from them. I've been called a cracker before. I've been told I was going to get beaten up because I was white. I would argue that on a systemic level, white people don't experience racism the same way a lot of other races experience racism. But I would say on an individual level, any group is capable of being racist towards another group as well.
So the argument against this position frequently is that racism is a system, not a sentiment in the United States. And I agree with that really strongly, but at the same time I'm Jewish and racially white and have definitely experienced racism, discrimination. The paradox is that most of that racism is coming from white people or European society, white nationalism, etc. that's directed at Jews.
So I just want to say that I want to validate everyone's individual experiences. I do also believe that white people experience bias, prejudice, but the reason I did not step forward is because by definition, racism is tied to power and economics. You talked about systemic discrimination. I don't feel white people experience racism by definition and by actual concept.
What is the definition of racism and who wrote that definition?
In the late 1500s, early 1600s, there was slavery. They started bringing over slaves, but there was really no concept of classifying people in terms of race. It's just we're bringing these people over and they're slaves. What ended up happening is some of the slave owners who were white started mixing with some of the slaves. And now here you have these black people that look like the people that are owning things. So they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. The theory of race was formed to classify a group of people who would be lesser than and have less economic power. And this would be imposed against them for hundreds of years. So that has not been the white experience in this country, but it does not invalidate the things that white people experience. It's just not racism by definition. Is it prejudice? Is it bias? Is it wrong? Yes.
Mine is simple. If one person treats another person differently because of the color of their skin, to me, that's racism. I will tell you that I was stopped by the police plenty of times when I was a young man. And I will also tell you that I then decided to spend 35 years as a policeman. I'll tell you that I stopped lots of kids coming home from school. Depending on who it was that I stopped, the first thing out of their mouth would be, you only stopped me because I'm black. And I would say, you're driving a sports car with a back window that's this big, I can't see who's driving, and I stopped you because you're doing 95 and a 55. I had no idea who I was pulling over until I stopped you. Now, if I treat you differently because you're black, then I'm a racist. But if I write you the same ticket that I was going to write you before I knew who was behind the wheel, I'm not.
So I'm glad you used that example, and I want to commend you for your service for our country. But I do want to say, because I've actually taught classes for the LAPD and for their cadets about these issues. But what I can say, which is a statistic, and which is also a fact, is that 60% of our prison population is African American.
Different issue.
Yes, but let me finish, please. Is African American males, right? When you go into a system and you are kept in that system and you're cycled through probation and there is a systematic sequence of oppression, that's not happening to white males. So it's bigger than just the stop itself.
I don't trust white people. I don't trust white people for a multitude of reasons, but one of the main reasons is they're unpredictable. Like, I think about all the times where I really considered white people my friends, and then when we got in a small argument, they released all the racism they hid throughout our whole friendship. Scary. And then I think about the fact that I become mutuals with people, give them the opportunity to come clean about any problematic past, they say nothing, and then they get exposed for being racist. And it's never like some low-key, like I used to say the N-word in songs. No, it's like N-word hard R against black people. Like tell me why white people are normalizing racist past. Also, I think about the fact that white people have continuously, when given the opportunity, oppressed multiple marginalized communities. And I think about the fact how easy it is for them to do it again. Like, if they really wanted to, they would bring slavery back. They kind of already did with the criminal justice system. Plus the rate of hate crimes. I will legit always be scared of white people until they're the minority, which I hope will be sooner than I think.
A second ago, did you say you fight racism with racism? Yes.
Okay, first off, horrible camera angle. Secondly, you can't fight racism with more racism. And yes, black people can be racist, and this is an example. Imagine if a white person made this same exact video. They lose everything. Is that not privilege and power? And I understand. A lot of black people have PTSD when it comes to this, but you can't judge or not trust a whole race based on the actions of a few. As Gandhi once said, an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. Somebody got to be the bigger person in this situation, or we're just going to keep perpetuating the hate and the divide between all of us.
If you have not yet subscribed, please just hit that subscribe down below, turn on notification. Anytime I upload a video, you will be notified, and feel free to leave your opinion down, what you think about this video. Thank you for watching to the end, and stay blessed. Bye bye.